Hey there, my friend. Let me ask you something right off the bat. Have you been feeling like something's been off with the Cowboys lately? Like we've been stuck in this loop of so close yet so far? Yeah, you're not alone. And guess what? It looks like the front office is finally starting to feel the same way. That's right. Things are shifting in Dallas, and it's not just minor tweaks. We're talking about real changes in the coaching staff. Moves that could shape the identity of this team for years to come. Now, I want you to think back to the end of last season. The disappointing playoff exit, the confusion on offense, the defensive lapses, and the post-game interviews that felt more like damage control than leadership. Jerry Jones and the Cowboys brass had a choice: stay comfortable or shake the tree. And judging by what's already happening inside the Star, they chose the second option. We're entering what might be the beginning of a new chapter in Cowboys football. A chapter that's being written with firings, new hires, and reassignments all across the coaching ranks. Some names you'll recognize, some might surprise you, but every one of these changes is a clue to the bigger puzzle. What kind of team are the Cowboys trying to be? So here's what we're diving into today. Who's out, who's in, what these changes really mean, and what they signal for the future of this franchise. And you know what? I want you in this with me, because your take matters. After all, you ride this roller coaster every season just like I do. Let's start by pulling back the curtain on the major staff changes. But before we go there, I've got a quick question for you. Do you think the Cowboys' struggles last season were more about talent or coaching? Drop your vote in the comments. I'll be reading what you think. All right? Ready to dig into the first wave of changes? Let's roll. All right, let's start with who's heading out the door. And trust me, these aren't just back office names. These are the kinds of departures that make you raise your eyebrows and think, okay, they're serious this time. First up, Joe Whitt Jr., the Cowboys' passing game coordinator and secondary coach. This one stings. He's been with Dan Quinn for years, and together they helped shape that aggressive, turnover-hungry defense we've come to rely on. But with Quinn heading to Washington, Whitt followed him out the door. Continuity gone, just like that. Then there's Jeff Blasco, the running backs coach. The run game was flat-out underwhelming last season, and you could see the writing on the wall. With no real identity on the ground and poor development behind Tony Pollard, Blasco's exit was more of a cleanup move than a shocker. We also saw Scott Tolzien removed from the QB coach role. He was expected to help Dak Prescott elevate his decision-making, especially in crunch time. But with the playoff meltdown and inconsistencies late in the year, the Cowboys clearly felt a change was needed. Tolzien's exit speaks volumes about how the front office views Dak's trajectory and development, or lack thereof. Let's not forget the quieter moves either. Several assistants on both sides of the ball were quietly let go or reassigned. It's a total shakeup, especially on defense. The Dan Quinn era is officially over, and with it goes the comfort zone a lot of these players were operating in. Now, here's where I want your take. Which departure do you think hurts the most? Joe Whitt Jr., Jeff Blasco, or Scott Tolzien? Tell me in the comments, and give me your why, too. I love seeing how you're breaking it all down, because up next, we're flipping the page. Some fresh faces are stepping in. So hang tight. Let's take a look at who's coming to Dallas and how they're planning to reshape this squad. Now that we've cleared out the old guard, let's talk about who's stepping into the Star and putting on the headset. And no, this isn't just a bunch of placeholders. There are some real shake-up names in this batch. Let's start with Paul Guenther, the new linebackers coach. You might remember him from his days with the Bengals and Raiders. He's a gritty, no-nonsense coach who's known for getting the most out of mid-tier talent. With the uncertainty around Leighton Vander Esch's future and the need to elevate younger guys like Damone Clark, Guenther's role is going to be huge. Then there's Leon Lett, back in a familiar place, but now focused on defensive line development. The Cowboys missed his presence last year after he was initially let go, but now he's returning in a more specialized role, and if you've followed Dallas football for a while, you know what the big cat brings to the table. Expect a tougher, more technically sound front four, exactly what this defense needs. On the offensive side, Jeff Nixon is your new running backs coach. This might be the most intriguing hire of the bunch. Nixon comes from the Panthers and Dolphins, both teams, that have shown creativity in how they deploy their backs. The Cowboys are desperate for a fresh identity in the run game, and Nixon could be the one to finally crack that code. Oh, and let's not forget Robert Prince, a veteran wide receivers coach. He's coached in the NFL for over a decade and has worked with some big-time names. CeeDee Lamb's evolution will be a priority, but Prince could also play a key role in developing the younger receivers, especially if a WR2 trade doesn't happen. So, I've got to ask you this. Which of these new hires do you think will have the biggest impact? Guenther with the linebackers, Nixon with the backs, or Prince with the wideouts? Drop your answer below. I want to see who you're betting on to turn things around. Next, let's get into how all of this ties into Mike McCarthy and Brian Schottenheimer's long-term plans. Because believe me, there's a bigger picture here. All right? Now let's zoom out a bit. Because while these coaching changes might seem like individual moves, they're actually puzzle pieces. And at the center of that puzzle is Brian Schottenheimer. This offseason, we've seen a much more assertive version of Schotty. He's not just Mike McCarthy's right-hand man anymore. He's shaping the offense in his own image. Quietly but clearly, he's putting his stamp on this team. And if you've been paying attention to the type of coaches being brought in, you can see what he's building. A more adaptable, balanced, and hard-nosed offense. Take Jeff Nixon, for example. That hire screams Schottenheimer influence. Nixon's background includes spread concepts, two-back sets, and motion-heavy looks, all of which pair well with what Schotty wants to do in Dallas. He's not looking for flash. He wants control, time of possession, precision, toughness. Same goes for the wide receiver coach switch. Robert Prince is respected in league circles for his ability to polish route runners and get them mentally sharp. That's no accident. Schottenheimer is clearly focused on the details, and he needs his wideouts to execute with discipline, not just raw talent. And don't overlook how these hires line up with the draft picks and player movement. The Cowboys didn't go after a high-end WR2 in free agency. Instead, they're betting on coaching and development. That's a calculated move, and it tells you Schotty believes in what he's building. So here's the question I want to throw your way. Do you think Brian Schottenheimer is the right architect for this Cowboys offense? Or would you rather see a fresh, young offensive mind get a shot after McCarthy? Vote in the poll or hit the comments. I'm really curious to see where you stand. Coming up next, let's talk about what all of this means for 2025 and beyond. Because whether you're all in on Schottenheimer or not, the Cowboys are clearly locking into a long-term vision. And it's time we talk about whether that's the right call. So now that we've laid it all out, the coaching changes, Schottenheimer's growing influence, and the clear direction this team is heading, it's time to ask the big question. Where is this taking us in 2025? Look, the Cowboys didn't just reshuffle coaches for the sake of appearances. This was calculated. Every move, from Nixon to Prince to Pete, signals a commitment to stability and internal development. But that strategy is a double-edged sword. Because if it doesn't work, there's no one else to blame. The front office, the coaches, the players, they're all tied to this identity now. And let's be honest, it's a gamble. Dallas is banking on a more physical offense. They're betting on smarter situational football, more consistent execution, and a backfield-by-committee approach that leans on fundamentals. That's very Schottenheimer. And it could work, especially if the defense keeps playing at a high level. But here's the reality. They've run out of excuses. This coaching staff has been molded exactly how McCarthy and Schotty want it. The front office has cleared the path. There's no new play caller to blame, no young coordinator learning on the job. It's now or never. Either this staff delivers, or the Cowboys blow it up and start over in 2026. So I want to hear your take. Are the Cowboys finally building something sustainable, or are they just rearranging the furniture on a ship that's already drifting? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you had to grade this entire offseason so far, from coaching changes to draft picks, what would you give it? A, B-? Something worse? Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here, and if you've been riding with me through all these updates, thank you. This community is the real deal, and I love hearing from each and every one of you. And trust me, with minicamp coming up and roster battles about to heat up, we're just getting started.